We have a major update on Donovan Mitchell's future in Cleveland. For the last few weeks, reports have been flying indicating that if the Cleveland Cavaliers were to make Donovan Mitchell available this season, that he could potentially be traded to the New York Knicks. But we really haven't heard anything from the Cavs or anything from their organization about the Donovan Mitchell trade buzz until now. Thanks to Yahoo Sports' Jake Fisher, we now have an update on Cleveland's status and their response on the Donovan Mitchell trade situation. We're going to go ahead and give you that update and so much more today. But be sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of any of the new content. And now, let's get started. We have a major update on Spida's future in Cleveland this season. As we mentioned, there's been a number of reports indicating that potentially Donovan Mitchell could be available for trade if the Cavaliers don't do what they need to do this season. And if that's the case, he could potentially be traded to the Brooklyn Nets, to the New York Knicks, or a couple of other teams that were mentioned recently. However, we now know coming out from the Cleveland Cavaliers, their status and their response on this Donovan Mitchell trade situation. Shout out to Jake Fisher and Bleacher Report for giving us the following information. Per Bleacher Report's Adam Wells, Donovan Mitchell's trade is not eyed by the Cavaliers, despite the Knicks and net buzz. As the Cleveland Cavaliers hover around the middle of the Eastern Conference standings with an injury-depleted roster right now, the organization isn't preparing to shop Donovan Mitchell in trade talks. Per Yahoo Sports' Jake Fisher, by the way, folks, is going to be my special guest on January 10th at 11 a.m. So be sure to catch that live show. But going back to the report, the Cavs are not prepared to consider trading Mitchell despite the looming threat of him leaving as a free agent after the 2024-2025 season. Here's what Jake Fisher had to say exactly. Cleveland officials have maintained a commitment to this core of 4 all-star talents, according to league sources. Even with all the incessant chatter among rival executives that Mitchell will inevitably bolt when he can reach the unrestricted market in 2025. Ask any pro personal scout and they'll be happy to pinpoint Mitchell toward one of the 2 teams that call New York home. It has not bothered the Cavaliers' resolve to this point. Shout out to Jake Fisher from Yahoo Sports for giving us this massive update about Donovan Mitchell and his future with Cleveland, at least for this season. Because now we know that the Cleveland Cavaliers would rather try to have a playoff push with Donovan involved rather than trade him mid-season. And I think we all knew that. I think to some extent we all knew that while Donovan Mitchell could have been the most realistic in-season trade for the New York Knicks to make, I think we all knew it was likely not going to happen. The Cleveland Cavaliers still have a lot of belief in all of the players on their team, all of the players on their roster. Despite the significant injuries to Garland and Mobley, they still believe in that team, and they still believe in what that team can be and do with Donovan Mitchell. So because of that, I absolutely believe the reports here from Jake Fisher indicating that the Cleveland Cavaliers have no interest or desire at all to trade Donovan Mitchell, even with all of the trade buzz indicating that he could potentially be traded to the New York Knicks. Oh, and by the way, he's not the only insider to indicate this. According to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, he also answered the following questions on the app Threads about Donovan Mitchell and his future with Cleveland. According to Woj, in response to the question, does New Orleans get involved in the Donovan Mitchell sweepstakes? They have players and picks to interest Cleveland. Woj stated, there is no Donovan Mitchell sweepstakes. And then another person asked him, would the Cavs consider selling at the deadline if their record is close? And then Woj specifically stated the following. The Cavaliers have too much talent and too much belief in this team to do anything but prepare to try and make a deep playoff run. Woj put it perfectly. There is too much belief and too much talent on this roster for the Cavaliers to just trade Donovan Mitchell midseason. And I kind of expected this response because the Cavaliers want to give it another go with Donovan, give it another try, and see if this roster, when healthy, can compete in the playoffs. But honestly, for me, as a Knicks fan who wants Donovan Mitchell on this roster, this is actually music to my ears because I don't think the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to do great with all of these injuries. I think they're going to spiral out of control, and once that happens, I think they're going to have to make a choice. Do I keep Donovan Mitchell, or do I try to trade him this season for the most assets I can possibly trade him for? I think that's going to be the story going into the trade deadline, and absolutely the story going into the playoffs. If the Cavaliers are lucky enough to even make it to the playoffs, because if they have a bad stretch with all of these injuries, they may not make it there. And after that point, if the Cavaliers think that they might not make it to the playoffs, they may think about trading Donovan Mitchell sooner rather than later. But honestly, in my opinion, even if the Cavs get to the playoffs, they might be a first round exit. At best, a second round exit. You know what that tells me? That tells me that they don't have enough to compete with the top tier teams in the Eastern Conference. And that's going to tell Donovan Mitchell the same thing. And the Cavaliers are not going to have that many picks or players that they're willing to give up to bring another star here to pair with Donovan Mitchell, maybe Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. We don't know that yet. We do know that there are reports on the table that potentially the Cavs could look to move Jared Allen in a trade to get another player or picks on this roster. So they are looking to make moves, but the moves just don't seem to be centered around Donovan Mitchell. They seem to want to build with Donovan Mitchell for this season. But again, for me, I love that, because when they don't win in the playoffs, when they don't go far in the playoffs, and they fail again, and Donovan Mitchell sees that again, he's not going to sign an extension, and then the Cavs are going to have no choice but to sell him next season for a very low price. And that's going to be music to Leon Rose's ear. So in my opinion, it's only a matter of time. Thank you, Cleveland. Please keep Donovan, keep him in that situation, and have him lose another playoff series with you guys, so that way he gets fed up and wants to leave Cleveland for another destination. Hopefully that destination being coming home to the New York Knicks, because that's where he belongs. That's where he should have been in the first place, and I hope that happens. And in my opinion, it's going to happen now sooner rather than later. Either the Knicks are going to trade for him on a very low type of package deal next season, or he's going to come to the Knicks in free agency, and then the Knicks are going to utilize their assets to go after another star. So that way they can pair Donovan, Jalen Brunson, and that new star together with the rest of the Knicks roster, whoever they have available, to try to compete in the Eastern Conference. So I advise you guys, I wouldn't worry about this report too much, because if the Cavaliers continue to lose, these reports are going to change. They're going to want to make a move, and potentially that move might include Donovan Mitchell. But even if it doesn't, the writing is on the wall, because if they keep him and they fail in the playoffs again, which I believe they absolutely will, then it's tick-tock for Donovan Mitchell and it's time in Cleveland, because it's only a matter of time before he is in New York, and he is part of the New York Knicks, and he is home playing for the New York Knicks in the Mecca of MSG, the Garden. In my opinion, it's only a matter of time before we start singing "Welcome to New York City" to Donovan Mitchell. Only a matter of time. But what about you guys? What do you think about these reports coming out of Cleveland, and as well as from these NBA insiders indicating that the Cleveland Cavaliers have no interest at all in trading Donovan Mitchell this season? Let me know in the comments below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below, and of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knick fans. Peace.